Hello and welcome back to Real Estate and Life in Santa Clarita Valley. I am your host, Sahar Maynard, and I'm excited to talk to you in this episode about building generational wealth with real estate investing. It is definitely one of the top ways currently in the US to build wealth that lasts long and you can pass down to your kids. It's probably the most common way most people have built up generational wealth, even for clients that have a very diverse portfolio. Real estate is always a very important part of that portfolio. And today let's talk about why. So first of all, I just want to say welcome back to my channel. And if you know of anyone or have loved ones that currently you think would benefit from this information, please tap the link, share this with them, and hopefully the information will help them as well. So I want to talk about how this comes up so often with my clients, buyers and sellers alike, whether they're investors or they're, individuals or families looking for their dream home. Often the key motivator for building a real estate portfolio or purchasing even a single property is for building that kind of wealth and cushion and security for our own futures, for our families' futures, for our kids' futures. And there's a reason for that. Real estate is probably one of the safest long-term bets. It's tangible, so it just often feels better than, saving money in something like stocks that we won't be able to, easily access and know that we own it in the same way. And okay, so it's definitely something that comes up over and over whenever I'm speaking with clients as well as other agents. Generational wealth is something we all think about, whether it's for saving for our own future or saving for our family, and hopefully saving so that we can pass something down in the future. And of course, there's different ways of doing that. We can purchase stocks, we can have businesses that build wealth. We can definitely, have retirement accounts. However, real estate investing has been one of the most surefire ways over hundreds of years at this point in the US that has consistently helped families build this kind of generational wealth. And now let's talk about why. So, the very first reason is leverage. Real estate is one of the only investment types where you can control a large asset with a relatively small investment. So, if you think about this, if you purchase a $700,000 home, you probably will put anywhere between 5 and 20% down. For the sake of example, let's say 10%. So, with a $70,000 cash investment, you are going to be controlling $700,000 worth of assets. And this is amazingly valuable because as that home appreciates over time, you're getting the growth on $700,000 when you only put in 10% at the beginning. This kind of leverage is incredibly powerful and it doesn't exist as easily in other types of investments. The second reason is long-term appreciation. So in real estate, markets can go up and down, absolutely. Within a few years, you might see the value of your home drop or go up, and it's not going to appear to be as stable as it actually is. The fact is, the trend over time, real estate values consistently rise. There's no property in the entire US that you can look at and you can say that it is worth less on average now than a similar home would have been in the 1950s. It's always going to eventually go up. And so for a family that owns a property for 10 years, 20 years, or even let's say 30 years, that asset often becomes significantly more valuable than when it was purchased. Now, when that property is passed down or sold later, the equity becomes part of that family's financial foundation. So the third point that I would like to make here is that of forced savings. You might have heard this term before, and I know I hear it thrown around quite a bit. However, just to make sure that we all understand what it means, when you own a home and you're making your mortgage payment, a portion of that, a significant portion usually, goes towards your principal. And so without even thinking of it, you are adding every month into the equity of your home. And so when you make a mortgage payment and the portion goes towards the principal, over time you're building equity without thinking about it. Rent, on the other hand, is pure expense. You're not going to get any of that back in the future in the form of savings. So, home ownership slowly converts those payments into an additional savings source. The fourth point I'd like to make about real estate as an alternative to stocks or businesses or other investments is that with real estate, you're also creating multiple ways to build wealth because in the future, as you own a property, there's appreciation to be taken advantage of, rental income, tax advantages, and equity growth. So, few investments that you can think of will combine all of these benefits. And that's why many families in the US have been using their property as a stepping stone to build wealth or make additional investments in the future. Maybe their first property turns into a rental property and then they can purchase a second home, or maybe the first property's equity actually gives them the equity they need to purchase another property, open a business, or do other things that they would like to do. The fifth point is probably the most important when it comes to something like generational wealth, passing it down. And this is really unique because a property that's owned for decades, it can become a huge asset when it's passed down to children and grandchildren because for them, instead of starting from zero, they're going to be starting their generation with a financial foundation that's already in place. And really, it's the biggest reason why real estate has historically played such a major role in wealth building. Now, of course, I don't want to end this conversation without just, explaining that every situation is different. Real estate markets can change, and this isn't meant to be financial advice or investment advice. It's always very important to speak with a professional and evaluate what makes sense for you and for your own goals and for your family. But for many families, homeownership has been one of the most reliable ways to work in long term wealth over time. If you enjoy conversations about real estate, housing trends, and homeownership, please subscribe and make sure to share this with anybody in your life that you think could benefit from this conversation as well. And I'll see you in the next episode.